Welcome to After the Close, the podcast where we pull back the curtain on how deals actually get done in the lower middle market. I'm Dan Stetzer, and every episode I sit down with owners who've sold their businesses and the buyers who wrote the checks to break down exactly what happened between the LOI and the bank wire. We're talking deal structure, negotiation, the emotional roller coaster of letting go of something you've built, and all the hard lessons that only come after the ink is dry. If you're a business owner who is looking to understand how other business owners have sold their business, what lessons they've learned, and how they've positioned their most important asset, this is your show. Let's get into it. Hello, today on After the Close podcast, we have Carrie Kelsch, who is founder and CEO of A+ Garage Doors. And Carrie, welcome to the podcast. Just to sort of kick things off, I wanted to throw it over to you to talk about the very beginning of A+ Garage Doors, which, if I'm not mistaken, it was almost a little over 20 years ago at this point.
Yes, that is correct, Daniel. Thank you. It's an honor to be here with you today. Oh my gosh, when it began, got to go back in time for 21 years ago. So I was a mortgage broker, and I really had no desire or no business being in the garage door space, but I was dating a guy that worked for another garage door company, and he didn't like the way it was ran, so he kept coming over to me and say, let's open a garage door company. And I said, no, there's not this, let's us do it. I don't want to do it with you. So I went and I just kept doing my mortgage broker things, thinking that's the road I'm going to go down. I enjoy it. And he kept coming back to me time after time. And finally he overcame all my objections. So he said, well, you open up a company and you'll own it. And, so then I wouldn't be tied to him. And he said, I'll manage it so you don't have to do anything. I was like, okay. And then he's like, your kids can work here when they get old enough, because I had 3 small children at the time. So he just overcame every objection. And I'm like, okay, then I'll open the company. So I opened it thinking it was just going to set it on the shelf, forget about it. And then when my kids turned 16, though, they could start working in the company before they went to McDonald's, And that was not the case. So right after we opened it, and to open a garage door company back 20 years ago, you obviously got your company name, and you needed it to start with an A because you have to be in the phone books. And then you went and placed an ad in the phone book. Like, those are the 2 things that you do to open a business. It was pretty easy. So when does the phone book run? You have to wait until the phone book's about ready to launch. And that's when you open your company, right? So we got our A name, we got in the phone book, and then the phones immediately start ringing the moment that phone book hits the consumer. So the phones just start ringing, and he's just go out there running to them, answering all the phones, running to them and handling everything. And he did that for about a month. And then he called me and he's like, I can't do this anymore. It's way too stressful. I need someone to answer phones for me. So I go to all my networks and I find somebody who happened to be my sister-in-law to answer phones for us. So now she's 24/7 answering phones. And by then it was like, 3 to 5 calls a day, if that. Right? So it wasn't like overwhelming. And we did that for a while, and pretty soon he calls me up and he's like, I can't do this. This is way too stressful. I need more help. So then I go to my network again and I get my nephew to start working for us. And he's only 16. But I'm like, this is perfect. This is what it's designed for, to help, my kids. So he starts working for us at age 16. And we kind of keep doing this. And then I find out that my boyfriend, who now is a great salesman, has convinced me to marry him. So now I'm married to him, and he starts using me as an assistant. So he's like, hey, can you get this marketing done? Hey, can you get payroll done? Hey, can you do this? And I'm like, okay. So during the day, I'm doing the mortgage broker. And then at nights and weekends, I'm playing the garage door assistant. And we did that for a couple of years. And then I just kept getting more and more stuff to do. So it was, instead of after hours, it was kind of starting to cut into my all day long. So half the day I would do mortgage broker, then half the day I'd be working on the garage door company. So I was doing more and more of it. And then in 2008, when the housing crisis hit hard, I just couldn't get loans to close because banks are just going bankrupt. And so I decided now's a good time to transition full-time into the garage door space. So that's what I did. And from there, I still just kept working at a business. Now I'm just like, well, we need to get food on the table. So whatever we need to do to get food on the table, make sure our mortgage is taken care of. So I'm doing this, and I'm not realizing that I even have a company until the people that we were doing marketing with, I had some people come and approach me, and they had to teach me what the internet was. And they said, you need to put your business on the internet. And I'm like, why? That's ridiculous. Nobody's ever going to look on the internet for companies. And they're like, promise it's going to be a thing. So I just trusted them and went into it. Well, then instead of waiting for a phone book to drop or some mailers to drop, we were consistently busy and just climbing. He convinced me also to go to this course called Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business Program. And what happens there is I learn how it's like an MBA in 13 weeks. So I learned all the things that I need to be doing with my business. And I learned that I've got a business and I've got a company and somebody needs to be running it. So I just lean into that and start implementing everything I can get my hands on. Like, how can I implement this? How can I put in a process? And I put in a process. How can I get a system going? And just listening to their coaches and the mentors and just growing it from there, which I still talk to the mentors still today. And I'm still part of that network group.
Wow. That is a wild series of events. I'm curious, from that Goldman Sachs program, what was one or two things that you learned that you implemented that you felt like really transformed the business at that point?
Yeah, this is a little embarrassing to admit now. But when I showed up, they're like telling me one of the modules is what they call them. One of the modules was culture. And I had no idea what culture was. I had to literally look it up and find out because I'm like, well, I know what my family culture is. And so I had to discover that and discover that we have a culture. And that was something that I implemented, is knowing what the culture is, knowing how to intentionally move the culture and change it. But there's so many things that I learned from that. I didn't understand what a P&L was. I knew that I would have my accountant get the P&Ls to do some stuff. I don't even know what he did. I'm just like, hey, file taxes. And he'd just get in there and he's like, do you have a P&L? And I'm like, I don't know what that is. And he's like, okay, go here, go here, go here, give me this. And I was like, get it and get it to him. And I just didn't even look at it. So then with Goldman Sachs, they taught me, this is a balance sheet. This is a P&L. This is what you use it for. So that was very helpful. I think understanding your finances is just it's so elementary, but it needs to be done. And then the intentional culture setting going forward. And the culture comes with also doing systems and processes. And so we ended up setting up some systems and processes to help us streamline and get more efficient and get more systematic so that we can consistently show up. Show up for our customers, consistently show up for the other employees that I'm bringing on.
Interesting. So what's sort of ironic about that process is that when a buyer looks at a business, they don't want to buy the individual. They don't want to buy a job. They want to buy the actual business itself. And it sounds like what you did at that point was you took yourself out of the business and removed yourself from the key person or key stakeholder position and set up some of these processes so that the business could run a little bit more efficiency and a little bit more on its own. Is that right?
Oh, 100%. I took off all my hats, and then I had my husband take off all his hats, and we just started delegating to other people. For sure. That's what we did. And if you think about it, if you're an investor, like you just said, would you invest in just a single person? You're like, oh, I'm going to give you $1 million. Like, you're investing in that person that's kind of risky. If that person gets sick, if that person like gets hurt or injured, that's a risky investment. But when you're investing in a big operation that doesn't have the weak link, which is what I call it, if one person falls and everything crumbles beneath them, that's a weak link. And so if you don't have any weak links, then that's a really good investment that can grow on its own.
Awesome. So 2005, you start this business. The housing market takes a bit of a dip, which then impacts your W-2 position at that point in the mortgage business. So then you kind of are, instead of taking a leap, you were sort of pushed to to go into this business full time. Then you implement some of these standard operating procedures. You start delegating a little bit more. I'm assuming the business became a little bit more efficient that way. It was a little bit simpler to grow. But do you mind talking about some of those, I guess, growth milestones or some of the things that happened that you feel like were memorable over the years?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, some of the big ones was, like I said, getting on the internet, which to me is equivalent to people now getting on AI. Like that's equivalent because I'm watching it. It's like, oh, I've already read this book. Like I've already seen this play. I know how it goes. And so it's not hard to convince me that it's going to be all going to the AI search soon. And so leaning into that, so people aren't going to be searching for the best garage door company or, you know, a company open 24/7. They're going to be talking to their AI going, hey, my spring just broke. I can't get the door open. I'm waiting for this meeting. Who can come out? It's a Sunday. You know, your questions change and your responses need to change. And then AI is just going to take the data and go, open on Sunday. They do broken springs. You know, they offer same day service. Then it's going to call you and it's going to probably book you. Not even you have no contact with the customer until you show up. So just thinking that that's the way it's going to go and being prepared for that. That's what it feels like when I was jumping on the internet. Like I was like, I don't know. Do you think we need to be on the internet? Like this is crazy. I don't even know what that means. It's equivalent to that. So that was a huge one. The next one was getting reviews online. I'm like
Mm,
thinking the same thing. When is anybody ever going to look online for a good company? Aren't they just going to know if you're here, you're a good company? They'll probably look up, you know, Better Business Bureau or something. But moving to Google reviews and focusing on our reviews and having customers like give us feedback, that I felt like was another big leap into what we are today. So, and then
awesome.
always hiring. I hired a CFO that knew how to read financials and he wasn't the type of CFO that's going to try to run the company from the financials. He was just going to go, the financials are like the bumpers to keep you in the lane. And so that was really good for us. And he was incredibly patient with us. So those are some big ones, but it all comes down to the people.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Wow. Those are some good advice. Okay, cool. And it's funny, you make the parallel between the internet coming online and now with AI because last night I had to book a campground and the first thing that I did was I went right to AI because it just cuts away all the noise and all the
Yeah.
different ads and everything and just gets you right to the answer. And now that you say that, it makes me realize that that very much is the future. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
at least that's what it seems like.
Oh, yeah. It is definitely the future. Even I find myself going into chat. So I'm driving back from down south. So I've been driving for 2 hours and my car just dies on the side of the road and it's Sunday night. And so I pull over and I just go to chat and I said, find me a tow truck that's open on Sunday and that has a flat bed because you're not towing my truck. You're not going to tow my Porsche any other way. And so, and like, and they can be out here. It's like 108 degrees. I'm like, they can be out here quickly.
Hmm.
And they're like, I would recommend this company. I'm like, good, call them, let's book it. I use it's just bypassing so much of the noise and eventually get to the point where you just say, okay, just book it. I know it's already there. You just got to put all your data in, which I think people are a lot more reserved when it comes to giving AI all their data, which rightfully so. They should be cautious before they do things like that. But it'll just come to the point where it just books everything, handles everything, and you know, there you go.
Absolutely. Yeah, the AI will be the assistant of the
Well,
future.
yes.
So, Carrie, I'm curious. So you go through some different sort of transitionary periods throughout this business from 2005. You start to work yourself out of the business a little bit, delegate a little bit more, hire a CFO who sounds like brought a little bit more strategy to the finances of the business. Um, I'm assuming that at this point you're starting to make some serious revenue. Um, do you remember or recall any sort of moments where you went from I didn't realize I was even running a business to like, whoa, this thing is growing pretty quickly,
Hmm.
and how am I going to handle this?
Yeah. Um, yeah, I feel like for me being in the trades and a business owner, I may be really good at running a business, but I can tell you that my expertise doesn't come in managing like finances. And I don't mean managing finances like of the business, but like investments, finding investments and picking the right investments. That to me is not my expertise. And so throughout the years, we realized, I think we were about 10 years in, and I was like, oh, we're making some serious coin. I need to figure out where I'm going to put this money. And so I think that was 10 years in when we're doing enough that I need to start reaching out and find investors. That was really a good problem to have. And also realizing that, you know what, I could try to now get into the stock market and learn everything about the stock market, learn everything about investments. But why when there's so many experts out there? So I just kind of leaned into that and started having other people do those investments for me while I kept running the garage door company. So that was, I think, a big one when I realized that I need to find somebody. I need to phone a friend for help, you know, to manage the money.
Quick break. If you're a business owner doing somewhere between 1 and 30 million in revenue, and you've ever wondered what it's actually worth, not a guess, not a rule of thumb, but a real number, I can help. We're offering a free opinion of value for lower middle market owners thinking about an exit, whether that's next year or 5 years out. No cost, no pressure, just a clear-eyed look at where you stand today. Head to the aftertheclosepodcast.com to request yours. Now back to the conversation. From my understanding, it sounds like you had multiple capital restructurings or rollovers from investors. At
Mhm.
what point did you decide to bring on outside investment in A Plus Garage? And what was the catalyst behind that decision?
Yeah. So in 2019, my CPA offered me to some money to buy the company. And so that just got me thinking. I'm like, wait, I didn't know the company really had any value. I mean, I knew it was bringing me in money and providing for our family, but I didn't think anybody else would be interested above that. I thought I was just going to have to give it to somebody, either give it to my kids, give it to my employees, just give it away. And I needed a long-term goal. And once my CPA offered me so many million for it, I'm thinking, wait, what's going on here? If he's willing to offer, you know, at the time he offered 30 million, which you know he's super short, you know. I'm
Wow.
like, he's gonna be cutting himself a deal on that one. I'm
Yeah.
like, wait, you don't even know what you're doing in the garage door space. He's like, I'll buy it from you for this amount. I was like, really?
Wow.
And you know, that's pretty enticing at the time, right? When your CPA offers you that. But it just got me thinking. I'm like, wait, if a CPA is willing to pay that, I wonder what somebody in the space is willing to pay. And so it just got me thinking and looking around. And I realized that I didn't want to exit with a company or somebody that didn't value my employees as much as I did, didn't value all their hard work, And so I kept looking for a structure that set them up to win, so that I could structure this new company going forward so that they could win big. And I just kept looking for that, and I didn't settle till I found something that I felt like really worked and I felt comfortable with. And then from there, it was only, I don't even know if it was 6 months later, we sold again. And then it was about a year and a half, not even 2 years later, we sold again. So we've
Wow.
had 3 so far.
Wow.
Yeah,
And
and it's
go
it's been fun when they can, take a little bit every single time. And I'm just gonna tell you, the value of the 30 million, we're way beyond that now. So it's a good strategy for us, for me, my team, and everybody moving forward the way that we've done it.
awesome. And from my understanding, I think from our pre-call, you mentioned that you rolled a vast majority of that payout into equity of the future company. Is that right? Like you didn't liquidate, you didn't use it as a liquidating opportunity.
That's correct. So because I was already making a lot of money before I even sold, it wasn't like I needed this big payout to get me off debt. My company's completely debt free. And so I already was taken care of. So I didn't have to have a huge liquidation. So I did a really small one at first. And then the second sell, I actually rolled everything because they were allowing me to do that. And I've always reinvested into the garage door company year over year. So when we'd have like at the end of the year, I'm looking at it going, you know what? Let's buy up inventory. Let's do what we can do to reinvest in the company. And so I've
Mm,
always reinvested in the company, and this was no different to me. I'm betting on myself, I'm betting on my team, and that was a pretty safe bet for me. And then the next sell after that, turns out it panned out.
yeah,
Um, so on the third one, I took a little bit more than I've taken before, but I still am rolling quite a bit.
that's awesome. Good for you. Well, I'm curious, like you mentioned one of your number one priorities being that the whoever the acquirer was going to take care of the people and care about them as much as you did. We talked a little bit in our pre-call about finding the right partner. How were you so successful, or how, if you kind of look in the mirror, what do you think made you successful with that? Because clearly you have been very successful in this department.
Hmm. Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. I felt like um, we when I sold the first time, and I feel like it was more of a partnership because I didn't even sell. Like I barely sold 25%. And so then to go to the next time where we're going with Guild, and I rolled everything into Guild, um, looking at them and just talking to the people, getting to know them on a personal level and see what their vision is and seeing how we're aligned was super important to me. So I didn't just go with the first person that came at me. We looked at it, we dissected it. I mean, I've gone out and visited some of the PE groups, like to their homes to have dinner in their homes. And, they start drinking and having a glass of wine, and then they start telling you things that just kind of unravel, and you're like, oh, okay, that's your true intent. So I feel like just getting to know people and getting to know like the intention behind them. And then this last one that we just did, um, with Oak Hill, oh man, I feel like we hit the lottery with that one because I wasn't involved in it. It was definitely something that Guild was doing and I knew about it, but it wasn't something that I was actively out there looking for the right partner for us. I was leaving that up to someone else. And I just feel like they hit the lottery because I really like who we have now and what they stand for and what they want to do with this industry. They also um, they understand that a lot of PE shows up in a not so positive way. So employees don't want to work for them, consumers don't want to use them, and Oak Hill's different, where they're like we feel like we can show up differently. which you have to change the way people see you in your space. And so Oak Hill in their PE space, they're like, how are they going to show up so they're seen differently? And then also A plus in our space, we have the same thing. Like, how are we going to show up so people start trusting? And I'm going back 20 years, but when they start trusting a garage door company instead of a handyman, why are they going to be paying a little bit more for a garage door company to fix their garage instead of just using a handyman to fix it and refix it and refix it and refix it and and you've got to show up enough times that they start building that they start building the persona that, like, wow, you want to actually hire the experts to do what they can do, like, in the space. And you've got to change the perspective of people over time. And I feel like that's what Oak Hill is ready and willing to do. And they want to do this, is change the perspective and people's opinion of PE. So I'm very excited about that.
Very cool. Well, I mean, you mentioned selling a couple of different times. That equity that you initially rolled is worth a lot more than it was on the first time that you rolled it. What's it like to sell your business that you grew from 2005 as a side hustle and now have it worth some serious coin? Like, what do you ever reflect on that? What is that actually like?
It's, I would be lying if I said it's not a little bit sad, because this is something, like, you have to look at it like it's a baby. It's something that it's like I brought up, and you're so passionate. I'm so passionate about it. I'm so passionate about the people. And then to sell it where other people get involved and start telling you, well, you need to do this now, or we're going here. It's a little sad, but it's all for the better good and for a greater cause than just what I'm doing. So I think just with anything, you can look at it and go, I hate this. I don't want to do it. I don't want to change the way that we're doing what we're doing. You could be stuck in that, or you can go like, this is for the better good. This is for a bigger purpose, and make those hard decisions. But overall, it's been really fun to be able to watch other companies that are in this group come together and start learning and taking on best practices, because I've learned things from these other companies that have joined. I'm like, oh, I love what you're doing there. And we start implementing it. And they've learned things from me. So I think it all depends on who you join. And again, not all PE is the same. Like, do your research.
Totally. Totally. I think that's really good advice and candid. I think a lot of people would just think, well, to get that sort of life-changing money, it's incredible, and you have to be careful because it can go to your head. But I think,
Oh, yeah.
I think the way that you've phrased it is actually unexpected to a lot of people and very candid. Because, yeah, I don't know if a lot of people would say that it's sad in that way. Like, I don't know, unless you're a founder of a company yourself, you might not view that the same way as it being your professional baby, right?
Well, and it's the same, like, you've heard people talk about, their children getting married, and they're so happy for their children, but then they're a little sad at the same time. It's just kind of eye-opening. One of the things I would recommend, if people are going in and they're going to, like, look at eventually having an exit, I would say find a trusted advisor that can help you. I had some advisors that were business advisors that I really liked, knew before, and they could help me make this transaction smoother. Um, I would highly recommend doing that, because then they get to know your business, they get to know you before they're actually taking it to market, and then they'll understand your values. And so when they do go there, they're going to match you up with somebody that has the similar values. So I would say finding that trusted advisor would be key.
I think that's great advice. Um, Another question that I have for you is your decision to roll all of your equity. I hate to use the word regret, but do you ever look back and think like, dang, I wish I still had full control of my professional baby that I grew myself? Or are you happy with how things turned out today?
I would say overall, I'm happy with the way things turned out. Um, I know that if I still had control, we wouldn't be where we're at because there's some decisions that we've made, like launching into Reno, launching into Vegas. Those are some pretty big investments, and those are some big moves that I wouldn't have necessarily felt comfortable doing on my own. It would have been smaller and not such a big, you know, you don't, it's amazing how much you're willing to risk when you're looking and you've got some great big giants in the standing behind you going, yeah, let's do this. You're like, okay, so you're willing to take that risk. And it's really panned out for us. So those kind of things, I feel like my team has a lot more to win doing what we've done. And if I just kept it to myself, yeah, that's great. I would have been, you know, I would have been able to still have all that money coming in. But that's not what life's about sometimes. It's about those around you, not just about yourself. And I care a lot for those people that have come with me and are with me doing it now.
That's very cool. I think your story is a great example for a couple different reasons, but I think a lot of founders in lower middle market don't realize that they have options besides just holding and growing themselves or selling the business completely.
Mhm.
And I think your story of finding the right partner, having them help you grow, finding a trusted partner that you're willing to invest in yourself. There's 1,000 different ways to sort of slice it, especially in the lower middle market that you're operating in. I mean, I'm sure you saw that your only options weren't to sell everything and sail off into the sunset or continue operating on your own. Do you remember that moment when you had to make that decision, or were you 100% going to bring on a strategic partner that could help grow A Plus Garage Doors?
Yeah, the original plan was to bring on a strategic partner to help grow A plus. And I think it was around 2019 when I decided that is the route that like we need to do something. We need to. At first, I thought, oh, we'll just give it to our employees. Like I said, um, until my CPA reached out to me, and then it was, well, let's see if there's anybody else interested in this, and just doing my research and discovering it. So it was definitely a couple years before I even really started looking into them that I started to, research on what my options are. And then I started to look at, okay, now that I know what my options are, let's find out who comes with those options. Um, I think, like I said, having those trusted people that you can lean on, that really served me because I would go back and bounce things off them. One of the things that makes me so sad is when I see a company and they've been in business for so many years and that business owner holds on so tight and is so unwilling to change or to let go or to expand into whatever the next movement is, and then their company just goes under. That is heartbreaking to me because I know what it took to get from day one to where they're at, and then to see them just go down because they're so unwilling to change. That to me is heartbreaking.
Totally. I agree. I think it's the unwillingness to change. And also sometimes I don't know if these operators that have been running their business for sometimes decades realize the amount that they know. No one knows their business as well as the owner that's been running it since inception. And it's important to remember that it's not just a car that you can pass down that somebody can just turn the key and drive it. It really is a machine in a lot of ways, and it's a custom machine to how you built it yourself. So I think that's really sage advice.
Yeah. I love that analogy. It's good.
Thanks a lot. Well, Carrie, anything else that you feel like might be helpful for folks to understand about the A plus garage door story?
No, they're just not to understand. I mean, there's a lot of things out there that kind of give you insight into how we are, and people are always open to come and do a tour. We're actively doing tours on the company just because it's like if we can give back to any other trades and like come in, learn from us, even if it's our garage door competition, which we do invite our competitors to come in and do a tour. Like, just let's elevate. Let's take care of all the blue collar workers. Let's everyone raises together, right? But the one thing I would suggest when you're going into looking at making that decision of am I going to sell or not, don't feel rushed. Everyone's going to want to rush you when they say time kills all deals. Well, if time kills this deal, maybe this isn't the right deal. So I would say take your time and make sure it works for you. And everyone gets like acquisition fatigue where they're trying to acquire you and you just get to the point where you're like, I'm so tired. I'm so done. I'll just sign anything. Like you start feeling that, you just take a break and like, let's pause, let's take a break, and then we'll bring it back. And I know that this is not going to be a popular choice amongst, the companies that are doing the acquiring, but it is definitely for those smaller businesses. It's okay to take that breath and make sure that you're very comfortable with the decision.
Awesome. And there's not always two options. There's not always an A and a B. Sometimes there is a C or a D. And just because there's two options on the table doesn't mean you have to take either one. At the end of the day, it's your business. So you can make a choice yourself.
That is so true.
Very cool. Well, Carrie, thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate it. And hope some owner operators and folks in the lower middle market can gain some value from this. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome. Thank you, Daniel.
That's a wrap on this episode of After the Close. If you're a business owner thinking about your exit, or you just want to understand how deals actually get done in the lower middle market, you're in the right place. New episodes drop every other week with real deal stories, lessons from the trenches, and the stuff nobody tells you until it's too late. Head to aftertheclosepodcast.com to catch every episode, and if this one hit home, share it with a business owner who needs to hear it. Quick note, everything you hear on this show is for informational purposes only and isn't financial, legal, or tax advice. Talk to your own advisors before making any decisions on a deal. I'm Dan Stetzer. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you on the next one.